Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to learn Python together. So Python is an interesting language. Um, it's popular because of recent years. We have used that in machine learning a lot, and it can be applied to many different platforms. And it's also flexible to learn, and also easy to learn for beginners. So, in the series of videos, I'm going to provide you some ideas in terms of how to use Python, all the ins and outs, for all the basics. And maybe in my next video series, I would like to help you build your first application, machine learning application with Python. All right. So, for this particular course that I'd like to offer, I will be covering those following topics. So first of all, today we're going to look at Python basics. And then in the next unit, learning about decision structures like if, else, and repetition structures like while and for loop. Later on, we'll be learning more advanced concepts such as data structures, which is a way to organize data so they can be accessed or modified in a more efficient way. And then we'll learn about some more advanced concepts such as building functions and use of modules, file input and output. And in the end of this in this course on basics, we'll be learning the third-party library that's called NumPy, which is going to help us do a lot of those calculation and data analysis. All right. So we will begin with Unit 1, which is focusing on Python basics. So if you haven't actually learned any programming languages before, Python will be a good one to start with. And hopefully after today's video, you will be able to build your first Python program and maybe also add more features like be able to interact with users and stuff in your program. So what is Python? Python is a programming language. It's created back in 1990, so over 30 some years ago. So it's a very general purpose, high level type of programming languages. So since it's high level, it's relatively easy to get hands on. Um, we use Python a lot in web development, in data science, such as analyzing various kinds of data from Excel, CSV, and use that in AI, machine learning, and lots of other applications, including using building control program for a robot. Okay. So why Python? Because Python it's simple. Okay, it's the syntax is readable and it's easy to for beginners. Unlike many other languages, it's very strict on its grammar and lots of those declarations and so on. Python is really user friendly, and it's also open source and supported by a large community. So let's dig into Python. So first of all, there are many ways that you can program in Python. Um, and there are many IDEs out there. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. So I would recommend you start with using one of the IDEs because it provides just an easy way for you to type your program and later on incorporate many other third-party libraries. Okay. They have their different tools and features that will make programming to be easy because it's gonna automatically check whether a variable name you write is correct, right? Whether it's declared or not, and show you any potential errors. So PyCharm is the one that will be used in this course. So you can actually go to the PyCharm website and then download a copy and install that on your computer. So Python program, they all end in the file extension .py. That means it's a Python file. All right. So for any programming language, we always start with this very straightforward program. It's called Hello World. Okay. So let's do that in Python and see how do we print Hello World in Python. So let me share with you my PyCharm. Okay, so now I want to write the first program in this course, which is print. So you can see it already kind of give me a hint. I can just use tab. Maybe it hurt me, right? But now it's printing it 3 times. I'm just going to print it 1 time. Hello world. And this is one statement. And we're using the print function that is already built in Python. And this print function will require some arguments. That's whatever string you're going to print, right? And then this string will be surrounded by double quotes or a single quote. Either of those will be fine. And then the arguments will be also included in this a pair of parentheses. Okay, let's run that. And you can see here, this is the result of this program, your first program of Hello World. All right, very straightforward, right? You can work on that by yourself. Okay, let's go back to the um, PowerPoint. Oh, okay, now that's your first program. Congratulations, right? See, it's just that simple. So now let's learn a little bit more things interesting that you can do, something additional that you can do with Python. So first of all, so those we want to talk about, okay, if you want to build a program, usually programs they are built based upon some simple building blocks. Okay, there are those two main components. One is code, that's the instruction, that's going to tell the computer what to do. So the print, that's the instruction. And the other thing is you want to work with data, right? So the data, that's the information the computer will store and process. So like in our previous simple example, hello world, that string is the data that we're trying to print. And you can change that to something else, and then it's going to print that something else. Okay, so all of our programs, they are composed of those two main things. We have the instructions to how to manipulate on the data and the data itself. Okay. There are many types of different data. Like now I'm listing 4 of those basic ones that we usually will play with. Those include integer numbers, floating point numbers, a string. You've already seen a string, right? Hello world is a string, and Boolean values. So let's start with integers. Why do we need to use integers? So integers, they are just, numbers like 1, 2, 3, or we could have positive and negative and 0. Okay. So why do we need that? So maybe we need to use integer to represent how many people are in the room, right? And what's the score in the game, right? It's an integer score. What is the course number? And what's the date in a month? And then what's the temperature, right? In terms of 97 degrees and things like that. So we use integers for certain type of data. But sometimes we also need to use some other type, which is called floating point, right? So floating point simply just floats. They're numbers that have decimal point in them. So for example, like to represent grade point average, the GPA, right? We use say 3.0, 4.0, or represent the price of something, 12.99, that's the price, or percentage kind of data. So 5%, that's 0.05, or irrational numbers like the pi representation. And strings are usually text. These are composed of individual characters. So we have a sequence of those characters, maybe also including special symbols, space, and things like that. Okay, so we use that, of course, to represent things like the name of a person, the address, right? The course name, and even the course number could be a string, right? If we use double quotes to surround it, it's just a sequence of numbers. The titles, to use that for a complete sentence, a name of a file on the computer. So that string is very, very powerful and helpful in programming. And there's also Boolean. So when we learn computer science, of course, we need to deal with Boolean numbers, Boolean values, because computer science is all about zero and ones, right? So Booleans are just a special type of data that can only have two values, true or false. So, for example, the state of the light switch could be on or off, right? So you can say it is true if the light is on. It's false if the light is false or off. And an object could be inside or outside some other object, right? True for inside, false for outside. There are only those two possibilities. If someone is listening, true for listening, false for not listening. So only two states. And here the true false the has to be capitalized. Okay, if we write it as the little t, true, then that's not the meaning of this Boolean value. All right, so once we have those different data types, then we can declare a variable of certain data type. So a variable basically is a named memory location that is going to hold a value. So this value could be a string, could be an integer or float or Boolean values, right? It can be any of those. And the contents of the variable can change over time because I mean that's why it gets its name. It's varying, right? It's changing. Another way of thinking of variable, you can consider this to be like an envelope, right? Where it stores certain value, right? So the score is the name of this envelope and its value has a value of 0. So the contents are the value. The name will never change. So if you declare a variable called score, then it will still be score, right? And it's case sensitive. So score versus the big S score, they are two different variables. So once we have variable, it's not interesting enough. We want to assign it a value. So how do we do that? Is through this assignment statement. So basically, we write a particular variable name equals to some expression. So that means we are assigning this variable this particular expression. So this expression could be directly some values like 29. So this means age is assigned 29, or age is given this value of 29, or many other ways. Age is 29 after this assignment. So just to want to make sure when we can declare the variable name to be anything as we want, okay? But every variable must have a name, and it's best as a best practice to define the variable name as descriptive as possible, related to the usage of that variable. So if this variable is to keep track of the count, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, then you can name it as count. If this variable is like used to calculate the average, then you're going to call it average, right? So, but you can call it anything else. Python doesn't really care what you use for the name, but as a general rule of thumb, uh, we want it to make sense, right? So that later on, when you read your code or some other people read your code, they will understand from the meaning, right, of the variable. What does this variable do? So in Python and all languages, all programming languages, there are some rules, general rules about naming a variable. In Python, a variable must start with a letter or an underscore. It cannot start with a number, okay, a digit. And we can have up to 256 total characters. Well, I highly doubt you want to write a variable that is way too long because it's hard to type every time and then hard to remember, right? You might miss some characters inside and then it becomes something different. Um, you can use a combinations of letters, digits, underscore, dollar sign, and some other symbols, but it cannot contain spaces. Okay, so it has to be all connected together. Okay, you can use underscore to replace the space. Um, Also, it cannot contain those special math symbols like the plus, minus, divide, and parentheses, and so on, those special symbols. Also, we want to say have it follow some kind of naming convention, meaning that we want to, okay, that's the general way that everybody will follow, will agree upon. For example, there is the snake case situation where if we want to say declare a variable that's representing student name, we can use the underscore, right? All of the words will be lowercase, but we're using underscore to separate them. Student underscore name. Or we want to calculate the total score for a person. So this will be total underscore score. And then you can have multiple words as well and just use underscore to connect them. So this is like a general way of naming your variables. And just want to make sure for your variables, please do not use any of those special keywords that's already reserved in Python. So for example, like the print statement, we cannot use that because that's a built-in function. Like this def, that's like define. That's like a keyword we cannot use. The if, else, import, all of those are special words in Python. We're going to use them in our coding. They represent certain meaning. Okay, so we cannot use those special words as the variable name. Okay, all right. Variable names and keywords, they're also case sensitive. So in our previous example, if we write the print statement as the big P, then it's not going to do the job. Okay, so that these two are totally different, even though the only difference is the first letter. Okay. So that's why we really want to use like the previous suggestion, the snake case, right? We use this just lowercase and use underscore to connect all of those. Okay. There's another case that's called camel case, but we are trying to in this course use snake case as much as possible. Okay, here's some examples of what we have just talked about. Here we're given a variable called age, and we're assigning integer value 18 to age. And then we're declaring a variable called GPA. We're assigning 3.75 as the value for this GPA. And name is assigned Alice. And when we try to use string, remember we always try to use double quotes. We can also use single quote, but just don't mix match. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Just be consistent, right? And then we have a field that is called is underscore student. We set the value to be true. It's a Boolean value. All right, so those are how we declare some of those simple type of data that we can manipulate with. Now, there are more things we can do with those data. So we can start with some simple arithmetic calculations. You've all seen that in math. It's just that in Python. How do we represent it, right? So of course, the plus, minus, divide, multiply, it's the same as in your any math classes. Now, for the power, we actually use two multiplication. So this is saying I'm going to raise to the power of 3, right? Uh, so this is 2 to the 3, which will print out a value of 8. And this percentage sign is called modulo. Okay. When I mean modulo is just a special calculation in computer science which is pretty helpful. It's going to help calculating remainder. So for example, like if we calculate 10 mod 8, the result should be 2, right? Okay, that's the remainder because you do 10 minus 8, the remainder is 2. Or 16 mod 8. Well, the remainder should be 0 because 16 can be divided by 8, right? Resulted in 2. All right. So when we have those different arithmetic operations together, how do we know which one do we do first, right? We apply the basic rule, the order of the operations. So parentheses needs to be calculated first, and then exponent, 2 to the 3, right? And then multiplications, and then divisions, addition, subtraction. So let's take a look at this example. A plus B times C. So which one should be calculated first? So multiplication has a higher order than addition, right? So B times C should be calculated first, and then the result will add A to that result. But then if we add a parenthesis here, we have to evaluate parenthesis first. So A plus B should be evaluated first, and then the sum will be multiplied by C. Okay, so those will generate totally two different results because of the order of operations. So just putting all of them together, here is an example of what we just talked about, doing some calculation. So in this case, we're defining number of $1 bills. We have 3, $5 bills. We have 2. So you can see if we define the variable in a meaningful way, we can understand what this program is about, right? Even without any comment. So the total will be number of $1 bills plus number of $5 bills times 5. Okay, so we can calculate the total amount and print it out. Okay, and in the next one, we're just trying to calculate how much I should get paid. Let's say the rate is 10, maybe $10 per hour. Total hours 45, regular hours is 40. Overtime hours is different, right? Overtime hours is total minus regular hours. So the pay rate will be the regular rate times the regular hour. And for overtime, it's 1.5 the regular rate. So we do that calculation and add them up. That's my total pay. So I can just print out what's my total pay. Okay? So let me see. Okay, let me copy paste this and try to run that. And then I'm gonna share with you Python. Okay, let's try to run this program. Oops, when we copy that, there's the extra things we don't want. Okay, so you can see it's highlighted by red. I mean, some weird symbol there. Okay, it looks all good. Let's run that. And then it will print out for working hours, 45 hours, I should be paid this much. Okay, now let's try to do some damage to this code. Let's say if so this is actually the camel case where we're using lowercase for the first word and then capitalized is the second word. But let's say it's not consistent. I change the name. What will happen? So it's going to yell at me because this variable total hours, it says is not defined, okay? Because I changed the name here to be total underscore hour, but this is still the old one, okay? So I'm gonna change that and it will work. Oops, oh, because here it's still not working, right? Also change here. Oh, actually, this is still regular hours. Total hours. We need to change all the places where we change that word, right? Okay, now it's working. Okay, so that's just a one common mistake. Let's say I'm gonna remove that parenthesis for the print. What's gonna happen? So it's going to show me the syntax error, right? The parenthesis was never closed. So that means we have a missing parenthesis here. All right. And in this case, you are seeing we're using a single quote, right? For this print for working hours, I should be paid this much. Okay. All right. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. Okay. So in the previous example, you can see that if we define the name, the variables in a meaningful way, we can easily understand what this program is doing. However, a better habit would be to comment your code. Okay. Comment means that we want to give some explanation in terms of what's going on in this section of code or in this next line of statement. So there are three ways to write comments in Python. Okay, we can provide a full line comment. Okay, so we use this sign, the hash sign, and then followed by uh, uh, just whatever comments we want to add. But this sign can actually only comment out one full line. Okay, if you have a longer sentence and then it reaches the next line, then that's gonna be problematic. Okay, so you need to add another one. And you can also add a comment after a line of code. Say, let's say score equals to 0, and I'm adding a comment, say this is initializing the score. Or we can use multi-line comments, like we have multiple of those starting at different lines. For each line, we need to add that sign. Okay, this is another way of commenting where we use three single quote. Okay, but it's not like technically comments. Okay. So a better way is to use multiple of this hash sign. Okay, uh, where each sign is responsible for one line. So now we have three lines and then we have three signs. All right. So that's about commenting your code. Now let's take a look at some other basic things. Function, we're going to introduce the user-defined function much later, but we have already seen the system-defined functions, like those built-in functions. So what is a function? A function is basically a named block of code that will perform some task. Okay, so it's written separately. And we can call this function by writing its name followed by parentheses. So that's why when we look at print, right? So print is the name of the function followed by the parentheses. And inside the parentheses, it's going to take inputs like what string do you want to print, right? Or that's just about print, but for some other functions, it's going to perform some kind of work or and then return some result. Some functions may not return any result. It's just doing something. Okay. So in Python, there are lots of those built-in functions we can use right away. Since they are built-in, we do not need to import them. We only import like those third-party libraries and things like that. Okay, they perform some of those common tasks such as to display the output, to get user input, and to find out what's the length of, let's say, some data structure or string. Try to convert data from one type of data type to another type using those special functions. Those built-in functions really save time and make our life much easier. So to take a look at all the built-in functions, you can click this link. All right, so let's delve more into the print statement or the print function. So previously we've seen print with parentheses and with the arguments inside, right? We say we can use a single quote. And in this case, can't, this single quote, we meant for this to be printed out, right? The single quote. So if we really want to do that, we need to use a slash, okay, in front of it. This is a backslash. This is representing, this is an escape character. So it will escape the characteristics of the following character and just print it out. So this is basically telling the print function, please print out this single quote rather than use it as like the string single quote. Okay, so in this case, this single quote will be printed. You can also use double quotes here. Okay, that will also work. Okay, let's try that out on PyCharm. Okay, so I'm going to print, hello, you can't do this here. Okay, let's see. Oh, this actually will also print it out, but if we use all single quote, so this is going to be problematic, right? Because uh, for the print function, it's going to consider here, it already ends. This, this is a string, okay? So how to fix that is use this slash, backslash. Oh, this is still wrong, okay? Add to extra. Okay, so now it's going to do the job. This will not do the job. Right. Let's get back. So this escape character not only works on, let's say this quote, but also single quote. It also works on, let's say the slash n means I want to start a new line. Hello, new line, world, rather than using a space or some other special symbol like backslash, backslash, right? Backslash double quotes. So just remember to use this backslash when you need to print out those special symbol. So type is another built-in function that is going to tell us what data type it is for an variable or value. Okay, so you can see here, I type of 10. What's the type of 10? 10 is just a value, so it's going to print it out, right? Um, actually, oops, let me see. Let me share the pie chart. Okay, so I'm going to say print type hello world. So it's going to show it's a class of string because string is a class. And you can give it, say, 100. So it's a class integer. It's an integer. 100.0. It's float. And it's a bool representing Boolean value. Okay? All right. So to interact with the user, sometimes we want to get some information from the user, right? We can get the input from the user with a built-in function, which comes really handy. We're going to write it this way. So the angle bracket here in this expression represents that we must have a variable name in there. And then variable equals to, we use the function input followed by parentheses, and then we give a prompt. So like in this example, favorite number equals to, so this is the variable equals to input. I'm asking the user to enter a favorite number. Okay, and then I can print it out. Your favorite number is blah, 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 that whatever you just entered. Okay, so actually, there is another way of printing this out, which is a more modern way in Python to insert those variables directly into the text. We use this f string. So we have this f, little f, right before the double quotes. And then we can directly write this variable name here surrounded by curly brackets. Okay, so this is just a modern way in Python, which will do the same job here. But this is just more of a current way of doing that. Okay, so let's try this out on our PyCharm. Okay, so I'm going to say name equals to input. Enter your name. I'm gonna be more polite. Print, let's use the F string, hello. So now when I run this program, it's going to print out this prompt. So this prompt will be related to what you want the user to do, right? So you want to make it to be meaningful. Please enter your name, blah. Hello, blah, welcome to my game, right? So this is printing it out. So let's see, please enter your favorite number. I'm gonna use number here. Please enter your favorite number, 10. So it's going to print out 10. What do you think? This 10, what is the type of 10? Let's print that out. This number I want the user to enter is actually a string. Okay, so whatever the result here is actually a string, no matter you want the user to enter um, a real number or a string or something else. Okay, so that's something you need to be careful with. So the input is always a string. You want to you can try that out. So if you intend to actually use it as a string, you actually need to convert it. Okay. So Python has three built-in conversion functions that will change a value from one to another. So the first one is int. It's going to convert from a string or a float to an integer. Or you can convert from a string or integer to a float, or convert from integer float into a string. Okay, like in this example, I asked the user to enter favorite number, and then it's going to print out string, even though it's still storing the string correct value, right? Now, to use this as a real number, you need to do int, convert this into an integer, and then +1 and print it out. Okay, let's see that on our PyCharm, right? In those here. So I'm going to do, if I don't do that, what's going to happen? So it's going to give me an error here, right? Type error can only concatenate string to string. So we're trying to do a number, arithmetic calculation. But here, this plus is treated as a string because this number is string, this number is string. Okay, so it's not going to work, right? But if we use int to convert that, this int function, right? Use parentheses to represent what arguments we want to put it there. Oh, we didn't print it out, right? Print number again. So it will print out it's correct. Okay, let's comment this out. And actually, a more concise way is that for this result, I can directly convert it to string, to integer over here. And I don't need to, oh, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm gonna stop and try run again. See, it's already converted to 5 and the class becomes integer. So I can directly do this calculation. Okay, so this int, again, we have one pair of parentheses, which is operating on the result from the input entered by the user. All right, let's get back. Okay. Um, so in our previous example, we've already somewhat encountered concatenation. Concatenation is like taking one string and add another string to the end of it. So in Python, we can actually easily do that with the plus sign. So let's say if we have a first string is hot, second string is coffee, and then we just try to print first string plus second string. It's going to print out hot coffee without any space in between. Okay, so directly connecting them. You can try that out. And then actually for the string in Python, there's so many other functionalities that you can use. All of those are built-in string operations. It's like you can find substring and you can change them into lowercase. You can change them to uppercase and many, many others. So this is just a very, you know, short table, but it's like actually you can search for all the string related operations. There are a lot, and knowing a lot of them will be really helpful when you try to manipulate the string. All right, so here's our ultimate example of showing what we just learned in this unit one. Here we are asking the user to enter the name and enter the age. And for the age, I'm directly converting that to integer. And then I'm going to print out hello name. You are this years old. Next year, you will be this age. Okay, so you can try out this example. And here are some of those common errors beginners usually tend to make, like in this case, there's missing quote, right, for the string. And in this example, y is not defined, right? You're defining x here, not consistent here. In this example, we have a variable called 5name, but variable name cannot start with digit, right? And in this here, we forgot to do the type conversion. We're adding this to a string, which is wrong. And here in this case, the names are not consistent, right? Lowercase, uppercase, because it's case sensitive. And this one is missing parentheses. All right. So if you see any of those common errors, the PyCharm will usually let you know, highlight that in red. Okay, that's something wrong. So you can correct it and then run the code again. And here is a problem that you can work on if you want to kind of practice the ideas you learned this week. All right, so that's all we want to talk about for this unit one of Python basics. So please practice by yourself, and then the more practice, the better you will be at.